The whisper in the stars. The galaxy was never truly silent. Even in the deepest voids, there were always signals, echoes of trade routes, military patrols, or wandering explorers. But this signal was different. It did not follow the normal rhythm of alien communication. It came in pulses, heavy and cold, as if something vast and old was breathing across the stars. The first to hear it were the Draxian listening stations on the edge of the Orion Arm. Their operators were bored soldiers, used to intercepting smugglers or pirate chatter. But when the whisper arrived, every machine froze. The signal was not coded in any known language, yet it carried power like a warning heartbeat. The Draxians grew uneasy. Some even left their posts claiming sickness. But the signal continued, steady and unstoppable. Within days, the Galactic Council heard of it. Leaders from dozens of species gathered in their grand chamber. Their voices overlapped as panic spread. Some believed it was a natural phenomenon, a collapsing star, or strange cosmic wave. Others whispered it was the return of an ancient predator species thought extinct. None dared say the word that sat in everyone's mind. Humans. Long ago, whispers of humanity had passed through the galaxy like ghost stories. The Council had declared Earth quarantined, locked away in its own small corner of space. No trade, no contact, no recognition. To the rest of the galaxy, humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and best forgotten. But now, with this strange signal, the memory of their name returned like a scar reopening. Admiral Krell of the Vayari stood before the chamber. His scales glistened under the chamber lights as he raised his claw. "We must investigate. If this is humanity, we must know how far they have advanced." His words carried authority, but also fear. A small fleet of scout ships was dispatched. They jumped across the void, following the signal's trail. At first, they found nothing but empty systems, silent rocks, and burned-out stars. But then the pulse grew louder every time it beat. Their instruments shook. Finally, at the edge of an uncharted sector, they saw it. The ship was not like anything they knew. It drifted quietly, a massive silhouette against the void. Its surface bristled with weapons, yet it made no move. The scouts scanned it desperately, but the results only terrified them more. The energy output of this single vessel rivaled an entire Vayari battle group. Its armor was layered in strange alloys that scanners could not fully read. And most terrifying of all, the ship was empty of broadcasts. It did not call. It did not signal. It simply watched. The alien scouts sent every recording back to the Council. Their voices shook as they described the warship. "It is human," one whispered. "It must be human." Another swore they saw markings on the hull. Faded but still legible, the word Terran etched across steel. Back at the Council chamber, silence fell as the images were displayed. The warship filled the screen, larger than any single Empire's capital ships. Some Council members laughed nervously. "It cannot be real. This is a relic, an abandoned ship," others shouted. "If it is abandoned, why does it move? Why does it follow the scouts?" The room descended into chaos. Some demanded the warship be destroyed before it reached populated space. Others warned that to fire upon it could awaken something far worse. A few, the oldest among them, simply lowered their heads, remembering the old stories. The Council finally voted to send an envoy, a single diplomatic vessel. It was a desperate attempt to prove strength, to show that the galaxy was not afraid. But deep inside, every leader knew the truth. The galaxy was trembling, not from the signal itself, but from the shadow of what it meant. The envoy ship approached the sector, broadcasting greetings in 1,000 languages. It flew close to the Terran vessel. The warship remained silent. Then, without warning, the stars dimmed, as if the warship itself was swallowing the light. The envoy's captain froze. His crew whispered prayers. For the first time, they realized they were looking not at a derelict, but at a living predator of steel, built by hands that had once shaken the galaxy. Back in the Council, the final message from the envoy arrived. A trembling voice before the transmission cut. We looked into its hull, and it looked back, The chamber fell into silence. The whisper in the stars had become a roar in their minds. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The meeting of fear. The Galactic Council chamber was alive with noise. Voices of 100 species clashed. Some demanded action. Others begged for patience. The air was thick with fear, though no one wanted to admit it. They all knew what they had seen. A single Terran warship, silent but alive, drifting like a predator in the dark. High Chancellor Reiner of the Solari struck the stone gavel. His insect-like body gleamed under the chamber lights. "Order," he hissed. "We must face this together, or we will fall apart." But his words only partly calmed the storm. Admiral Krell of the Vayari leaned forward, his scaled jaw clenched. "I warned you," he said. "The humans are not to be ignored. That was not an abandoned relic. That was a hunter's ship, a warship waiting for prey." His words silenced some, but others scoffed. Counselor Tamora of the Faleri rose, her feathered crest trembling. "Perhaps this is all theater. Perhaps the humans only wish to scare us, not fight us." She tried to sound brave, but her voice cracked. The chamber noticed one by one representatives spoke. The Lither demanded immediate war. The Zaraxi called for surrender before a single battle began. The Drawl insisted on negotiation. They argued as if words could drown out the shadow of the Terran ship. Finally, the great holo display flickered, showing the footage again. The ship, silent and vast with the word Terran carved across its steel skin. The chamber fell quiet. Each delegate remembered the stories whispered by their ancestors. Stories of human wars that burned planets. Stories of soldiers who never surrendered. Ambassador Klin, the oldest among them, spoke at last. His voice was soft, but it carried like thunder. "You do not understand. Humans are not conquerors because they want power. They fight because they must. And when they fight, they do not stop until the enemy is broken." His eyes dimmed. "I saw it once when I was a child, when human fleets clashed with the Harkon raiders. The humans lost ships, but they never lost will. The Harkon never rose again." The room froze. For the first time, the younger council members realized why humanity had been quarantined. They were not banished for weakness, but for strength. Still, the debate raged on. Should they strike first before humanity grew stronger? Should they send gifts of peace? Should they build a wall of fleets around human space? While they argued, humanity was silent. The Terran warship did not broadcast, did not move aggressively. It simply drifted at the edge of known space, as if waiting, watching. The silence made the council's fear worse. In desperation, a plan was agreed. A diplomatic envoy would be sent, not a small one like before, but a great council vessel carrying representatives from all species. They would attempt contact. If the humans wanted peace, the galaxy would show strength and unity. If the humans wanted war, at least they would face them together. The envoy was prepared. Its hull was plated with gold, banners of every empire painted across it. It carried diplomats, translators, soldiers, and priests. All prayed it would not be their tomb. As the envoy left the council world, the chamber remained restless. Some whispered that this was a mistake. Others whispered it was already too late. Admiral Krell stayed behind, staring at the holomap. He noticed something none of the others wanted to admit. The Terran warship had moved, not by accident, not by drift, but with purpose. It was positioning itself on the direct path to the envoy. Meanwhile, inside the envoy ship, the crew watched their sensors. The Terran vessel was huge, its presence pressing against their minds. Every light, every screen flickered as they neared it. The ship was so big it seemed to blot out the stars. The alien diplomats stood ready in the grand chamber of the envoy. Their voices shook as they repeated phrases of welcome in every language. "We come in peace. We seek understanding. We honor your strength." But their voices sounded weak against the silence of space. Then the Terran warship answered, not with words, but with motion. Its engines burned cold fire, and slowly, it turned to face them. Its weapons lit up for only a second, not firing, only showing that they were awake. The envoy crew collapsed in terror, some crying, some praying. The captain of the envoy whispered, "They do not want peace. They want us to remember." His words were carried across the galaxy when the transmission reached the council, and so the meeting ended not in unity, but in dread. For every empire realized that if this was only one human warship, the rest of the Terran fleet could shake the entire galaxy to its knees. The first clash, the envoy never returned. The Terran warship let them leave. But the message was clear. Humanity was awake. The council tried to hide the truth, but the footage spread through black markets, pirate networks, and whisper chains. Soon, every empire in the galaxy had seen the size of the Terran vessel. Soon, every citizen had felt the same fear. The smaller empires trembled, the stronger ones prepared. Some said humanity would wait centuries before acting. Others claimed war was only days away. The galaxy stood on the edge of panic. Admiral Krell of the Vayari could not rest. He studied the ship's movements, the silence of its engines, the way it always seemed to appear at the edge of systems, watching. He knew what it meant. Humans were not sending scouts. They were hunters, waiting for the right moment to strike. The Lithar Empire decided not to wait. Their leaders believed that if humanity was struck quickly, their fleets could destroy the threat before it grew. They gathered a squadron of 20 warships, strong and proud. They armed them with their heaviest weapons and sent them to the sector where the Terran vessel drifted. The squadron entered the void with confidence. Their commanders mocked the silence of the Terran ship, calling it an empty shell, a bluff. The soldiers cheered, believing they would be remembered as heroes who destroyed the human ghost ship, but, as they drew closer, silence fell. The Terran warship did not flee, did not send warnings, it simply turned slowly, its dark hull glowing with strange energy. The Lithar commander ordered an attack. Missiles and beams flew across the void. The stars lit up with fire. Then the Terran ship moved. It did not dodge. It did not retreat. Instead, a shield of blue light shimmered across its hull, absorbing the first wave of weapons as if they were rain. Then its guns opened. One shot. That was all it took. A beam of pure white light ripped across the void, carving through the Lithar flagship. Like it was paper, the ship broke apart, spilling fire and bodies into the stars. The squadron froze. The Terran warship fired again, not wildly, not with rage, but with precision. Each shot tore through a warship, clean and brutal. Within minutes, half the Lithar squadron was gone. The rest tried to flee, but their engines faltered, jammed by pulses of energy that the Terran ship sent into their systems. Admiral Krell received the report in silence. The footage showed the Lithar fleet burning, their wreckage scattering across the void. The Terran ship did not chase the survivors. It let them flee, broken, carrying the story with them. The galaxy shook, not because the Lithar had been defeated, but because it had happened so quickly, so easily. A single Terran warship had destroyed an entire squadron without suffering a scratch. The Council tried to calm the empires. They claimed the Lithar had provoked the humans, that peace was still possible. But the truth could not be buried. Every species now knew that humanity's strength was real, not legend. Rumors spread fast. Some whispered that the Terran ship was not alone, that more warships waited beyond the veil of dark space. Some claimed they had seen shadows of even larger ships, their hulls so vast they looked like floating continents. The galaxy's fear grew heavier. Trade slowed, borders closed, armies gathered. Still, humanity remained silent. Only the Terran ship moved from system to system, never attacking again, but always reminding them. One night in the council chamber, Ambassador Klin spoke again. His old voice shook. "You do not understand. What you saw was not humanity's fleet. It was only a scout." The chamber erupted. No one wanted to believe him, but deep down they knew. The humans were testing them, measuring their fear, watching their reactions. Back in the shadows of space, the surviving Lithar commander drifted in a crippled ship. He recorded his last message. His eyes were wide, his voice weak. "We were not fighting soldiers. We were fighting executioners. They did not attack to win, they attacked to teach us fear." His transmission ended. The galaxy had its answer, humanity had returned, and the first clash was only the beginning. shadows of history. The galaxy was restless. Every empire whispered about the Lithor defeat. No one trusted their neighbors. Borders were sealed, fleets were armed, and yet no one dared to strike again. All waited for the humans to move, but humanity remained silent. In the council chamber, the mood was darker than ever. The Lithor survivors stood before the delegates, their voices shook, their scales pale. They described beams of light that cut through steel, shields that absorbed endless fire, and weapons that disabled fleets. Without effort, their words painted the Terran warship not as a vessel but as a monster of steel. But then something unexpected happened. Ancient records began to surface. Scrolls, fragments, old transmissions thought lost. Archivists dug deep into forgotten vaults, searching for answers. And slowly, the truth came to light. Long ago, before the Council had risen to power, humans had already walked among the stars. They were not explorers then. They were soldiers, survivors of endless wars on their own world. When humanity first reached the galaxy, they fought with a fury that shook empires. They did not conquer for glory. They fought because survival was their way of life. Admiral Krell studied one of the old reports. His claws trembled as he read. It told of the Harkon Wars. The Harkon had been raiders, feared by all. They burned colonies and enslaved whole worlds. But when they reached human space, everything changed. The humans did not run, they did not beg. They fought until the Harkon were wiped from existence. Not even ruins of the raiders remained. Only ash. Ambassador Klin confirmed the records. His old eyes filled with sorrow. The Council did not quarantine Earth because they were weak, he said softly. We sealed them away because they were too strong, too dangerous. We feared what they would become if left unchecked. His words cut through the chamber like a blade. The younger delegates protested. That was centuries ago, they cried. No species can stay strong in isolation. They must be weaker now. But deep down, their voices betrayed doubt. As if to silence all hope, more intelligence. Reports arrived. Smugglers, pirates, and scouts had begun spotting other Terran ships. They were not as large as the first warship, but still massive compared to anything the Empires fielded. Some were carriers. Some bristled with heavy cannons. Some even seemed designed for planetary assault. The galaxy held its breath. If these were just the first ships, what waited behind them? Whispers spread in the black markets. Tales of a colossal ship so large it blotted out moons. A supercarrier with an entire fleet hidden in its belly. Others claimed the humans had built floating fortresses in the dark. World ships that could survive forever without resupply. No one knew if the rumors were true, but fear made them real. Meanwhile, on the frontier colonies, ordinary people began to panic. Farmers abandoned their fields. Miners deserted their stations. Some begged their leaders to surrender to humanity before war arrived. Others armed themselves, ready to fight. The galaxy was tearing apart from within, even before the humans fired another shot. Admiral Krell met with his closest officers in secret. He pointed at the maps showing the paths of the Terran ships. They are not wandering, he growled. They are drawing lines, marking borders. Soon we will realize they have already claimed half the galaxy and we never noticed. His words chilled his officers, because they knew he was right. In the council, another argument raged. Some called for building a united fleet, the largest armada in history. Others called for surrender, hoping humans would show mercy. But every hour wasted in debate only made the shadow of humanity grow larger. Then came the leak. A spy from the Zeraxi Empire stole images from a hidden relay. The pictures showed something no one wanted to see. A Terran supercarrier, moving slowly through the void. Its hull glowed faintly with strange patterns and its size dwarfed everything around it. It was so vast that even the largest council dreadnoughts looked like insects beside it. The images spread like wildfire. Civilians screamed, soldiers hesitated. Leaders panicked. The truth could no longer be denied. Humanity had not returned as survivors. They had returned as giants. Ambassador Klin sat alone in his chamber, staring at the old records. His hands trembled. He whispered to himself, "We sealed them away because we feared their wars. But now, I see the truth. They did not stop building. They only stopped talking. And somewhere in the dark, deep beyond known space, the Terran fleet stirred. Shadows of history were no longer whispers. They were alive, and they were moving. The terror of choice. The council chamber was no longer a place of debate. It had become a battlefield of words. The delegates shouted across the great hall, their voices filled with fear and anger. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to surrender. And a few prayed for negotiation. But everyone knew the truth. The galaxy was out of time. The images of the Terran supercarrier had broken their unity. The sight of that moving fortress haunted every leader. No empire had a ship even half its size. The galaxy had always believed strength was measured in numbers, fleets of hundreds or thousands. But humans had built ships so powerful that numbers no longer mattered. Admiral Krell stood tall, his scaled fists clenched. "We cannot surrender," he thundered. "If we bow now, humanity will rule us forever. We must fight while we still can." His voice echoed across the chamber, but many turned their eyes away. They had seen the footage of the Lither fleet destroyed. They knew fighting meant death. Counselor Tamora of the Phileri spoke next, her feathers trembling. "We cannot fight them," she said. "We must send gifts, show our respect, and ask for peace. Humans may have strength, but perhaps they also have mercy." Her words drew laughter from the Lither delegate, who hissed, "Mercy is not in their nature. They strike without hesitation. They destroy without pity." The arguments continued for hours. Voices cracked, tempers broke. Some delegates stormed out, swearing their empires would act alone. The council was collapsing under its own fear. While they argued, the Terran ships moved, silent, steady, marking paths along the border systems. Colonies that once felt safe now reported strange shadows, vast silhouettes passing across their skies before vanishing back into the void. Farmers looked up and saw shapes so large they thought new moons had appeared. Whispers grew among the citizens. Some said humanity was testing them, deciding which empires would bend and which would resist. Others said humanity had already chosen, and war was inevitable. The tension reached its breaking point when a Terran message finally arrived. It was not long, not filled with threats or demands. It was a single line, broadcast into every language across the stars. "Choose carefully. Your next move will decide if you live or vanish." The council fell into silence. The message was not a demand for surrender, nor an invitation for peace. It was a warning, and worse, it was a choice. Panic spread. Entire empires cracked under the weight of the decision. The weaker species begged for peace, willing to give up their fleets and resources. The stronger ones prepared for war, convinced that humans would destroy them either way. On the frontier, a brave alien commander named Rylos decided to act. His fleet of 6 ships moved toward a Terran patrol, he told his crew. "If we must die, let us die with honor, not on our knees." His soldiers cheered, but fear still lived in their eyes. When Rylos's fleet approached, the Terran warship did not fire. It only turned, aiming its weapons but holding back. Rylos ordered a broadcast. "We come to talk, not to beg. Show us if humanity has mercy." For long minutes, silence filled the void. Then, a small human ship detached from the warship and moved forward. For the first time, an alien crew saw human soldiers face to face. They wore dark armor, their eyes sharp, their movements calm. There was no fear in them, only purpose. Rylos realized then that the stories were true. Humans were not conquerors, or savages. They were survivors, and survivors were more dangerous than conquerors. The Terran leader spoke only once. "We did not return to rule you. We returned to remind you of fear." The transmission ended, the human ship turned back, and the warship vanished into the dark, leaving Rylos and his crew trembling. Back in the council, the report shook the chamber. Some clung to the words as hope, believing humanity would allow peace if respected. Others saw it as a threat, believing war was only moments away. Admiral Krell slammed his fist onto the table. "We waste time with words," he growled. "The humans are waiting for us to choose, and we argue like children. If we choose wrong, we are finished." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized it was no longer in control. Their survival depended not on their fleets, not on their wealth, not on their alliances, but on one terrible truth. The humans had given them a choice, and that choice was a weapon more frightening than any gun. The war nobody wanted. The galaxy was no longer calm. Fleets patrolled every border, weapons were armed, and whispers of war spread like wildfire. No empire trusted another, but all shared the same fear. Humanity. The choice humanity had given them echoed in every mind, and many leaders decided to answer with fire. The Lither, humiliated from their defeat, were the first to move. They called upon allies, promising glory if they struck together. Soon, fleets from 3 empires gathered in a single armada. Thousands of ships armed with the best weapons the galaxy could build. They called it the Coalition of Defiance. Admiral Krell begged the council to stop them. His voice roared through the chamber. Do not provoke them. We will not win. We must wait. Watch and learn. But no one listened. Pride was stronger than caution, and fear made leaders reckless. The coalition entered Terran-marked space. Their ships filled the void, blotting out the stars with their numbers. Soldiers cheered, convinced that no single fleet could withstand them. Even if humanity was powerful, surely they would drown under such force. Then the humans answered, not with words, not with fleets of equal number. They sent only one ship, a Titan-class dreadnought, larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull gleamed like dark steel mountains. Its engines burned. With light that shook the void, the coalition laughed at first, mocking humanity's arrogance. One ship against thousands? They jeered. Let this be their tomb. The battle began. The coalition fired first. A storm of beams, missiles, and torpedoes lit up the void. For minutes, space itself seemed to burn. But when the fire cleared, the Titan still stood. Its shields shimmered faintly, unbroken, its guns still silent, waiting. Then with a soundless flash, the dreadnought fired. A single shot, one lance of white fire. It tore through the first line of the coalition, cutting battleships in half like paper. Hundreds of lives vanished in an instant. The cheering stopped. Fear spread through the coalition ranks. The dreadnought fired again, and again, each shot precise, each blast erasing entire squadrons. Ships tried to flee, but pulses of Terran energy froze their engines. Others tried to hide, but the dreadnought's weapons found them, tearing through armor and shields alike. Within an hour, the coalition was broken. Thousands of ships reduced to wreckage. Survivors scattered in panic, their formations shattered. The Titan never faltered, never slowed. It moved like a predator among prey, calm and unstoppable. Admiral Krell watched the battlefield. With horror, his scaled hands trembled as he whispered, "This is not war, this is execution." The dreadnought did not chase the last survivors. Instead, it broadcast a single message across every channel, its voice deep, cold, and human. This is the price of your choice. The galaxy trembled. The council fell into silence. For centuries, they had believed in power through numbers, through alliances, through fear. But humanity had shown them something different. A power so absolute it made their fleets meaningless. Across the stars, people wept. Some cursed their leaders. Some begged for mercy. Some swore to fight to the last breath, but all understood the same truth. War with humanity was no longer war. It was suicide. In the council chamber, voices cracked with despair. The Falleri delegate whispered, "We cannot stop them. They could burn our worlds tomorrow if they wished." Others nodded, too broken to argue. Ambassador Klin closed his eyes. "The humans did not want this war," he said. "We forced it, and now we see the truth. They fight only when they must, but when they fight, no one survives." Outside the council, the galaxy waited in silence. Every empire held its breath, wondering if humanity would come for them next, wondering if their worlds would see the light of Terran guns. But the dreadnought did not advance. It vanished into the dark, leaving behind only wreckage and fear. Humanity had not conquered. They had reminded. The war nobody wanted had begun and ended in a single day, and its echo would haunt the galaxy for generations. The galaxy shakes. The galaxy held its breath. Silence stretched across the stars. No empire moved. No fleet dared to gather. The wreckage of the coalition of defiance still burned in the void, a graveyard of shattered ships and broken pride. And, above it all, the shadow of humanity lingered. The Titan-class dreadnought had vanished, but everyone knew it was not gone. It was waiting. Somewhere in the dark, other ships stirred, unseen but certain. The galaxy shook not because of what had been destroyed, but because of what might still come. In the council chamber, despair filled the air. Delegates whispered to each other with trembling voices. Some demanded surrender. Others demanded silence. None had the courage to speak of war again. Not after seeing what one human warship could do. Admiral Krell stood, his scales pale with exhaustion, his voice heavy. You have all seen it, a single ship shattered thousands. If they unleash more, there will be no galaxy left. We must face the truth. Humanity is no longer our enemy. They are our future, whether we like it or not. His words echoed through the chamber. Counselor Tamora, her feathers drooping, whispered, "If we kneel, do they rule us? If we fight, do we vanish? What choice remains?" The chamber fell silent. For the first time in centuries, the council had no answer. Their power, their pride, their endless debates, all had been crushed by a single Terran ship. Then a new transmission arrived. It was short, cold, and final. A human voice filled every chamber, every ship, every home across the stars. "We did not come to conquer. We came to remind you. Do not forget fear, do not forget respect. Stay out of Terran space or face what you already know." The message ended. No threats, no promises, just silence. Yet the silence was heavier than any weapon. Across the stars, worlds trembled. Civilizations that had stood for thousands of years bent their knees in fear. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Priests whispered prayers to gods they had forgotten. Children looked at the stars. With wide, frightened eyes for the first time, the galaxy realized it was not the center of power. It was only a shadow under humanity's gaze. Admiral Krell walked alone through the council halls, his heart heavy. He knew the galaxy would never be the same. Some empires would cling to pride, some would bow, some would hide. But all would remember, humanity had returned. And the galaxy shook. On a distant frontier world, a farmer looked up at the night sky. For a moment, he thought he saw a shadow pass across the stars, larger than a mountain. His hands trembled as he whispered, "They are watching." He was not wrong. In secret, fleets of Terran warships powered up, their engines glowing faintly in the dark, waiting for the next challenge. Humanity had not revealed its full strength. The dreadnought had been only one piece, a single warning. The true fleet was still hidden, and when it came, the galaxy would see power beyond imagination. The Council finally issued its decree, a command that echoed across every star system. "Do not cross into Terran space," it declared. "Do not provoke them. Do not forget what has been shown." And so the galaxy lived under a new shadow, not conquered, not enslaved, but bound by fear. Every empire knew the truth. The humans did not need to rule. They only needed to exist. Their very presence was enough to keep the galaxy trembling. The whisper in the stars had become a roar, and the roar had become silence. A silence so heavy it made worlds quake. A silence that reminded all who heard it, humanity had returned and nothing would ever be the same.